What is going on? Today on Dylan Talks Tone, we are going to fix a couple of the little problems that we had with our brand new Silver Sky SE with the maple neck. If you will recall in our video where we kind of reviewed this guitar, it's awesome, right? It's a Silver Sky SE. It's cool. Here is a couple of the issues that I see with this guitar that we talked about in the last video. The fret finishing, the ends on the frets were not done up to par, in my opinion, that normal PRS stuff is. Even the SE stuff coming from Indonesia, from the Court factory over there, is really, really good. And this was not so much. Sometimes you can kind of chalk that up to, you know, is a guitar store doesn't have the right humidity in it. You know, you can go into a big box store every once in a while and you'll feel almost every guitar in there has some kind of sharp fret ends because the atmosphere in there isn't right. You know, they don't have the climate correct in the store. But sometimes it's because the people that were finishing the fret ends got a little lazy. And I think that's the case in this situation. The other thing I don't like about it is I don't really like the finish on the neck. I feel like some of the other PRS stuff that I have, even some of the other SE stuff, just has a nicer finish on the back of the neck. So we're going to fix both of those things today. Before we get started today, I want to thank my Patreon supporters because that is how we bought this guitar. Is because of our Patreon supporters. We don't get a lot of free stuff from the manufacturers because of some of the stuff we say, so we appreciate you doing that. Also, for those of you that are not into Patreon, the little super thanks button down there on those videos also helps out. It all goes to the same place, which is buying this stuff for the various things we need for these videos, and we do appreciate your support in that. All right, let's do this. Now we're going to do both of those things for a total cost of about probably 20 bucks. So don't stress about this. I can show you kind of if you've got one of these guitars and you're a little disappointed with it, or if you have any other guitar. You know, a lot of the Fender made in Mexico stuff has come with some pretty sharp fret ends, or if you've got another inexpensive guitar that it's just kind of expected that you got to fix some stuff up. I'm going to show you how to do that, and don't be scared of it. This is something that everybody can do for not a lot of money. You only need really one tool to do it, and I'm going to just show you some little tips and tricks on how to do it. The tool that we're going to use is our StewMac little fret end dressing file. This thing is 15 bucks. I'll leave a link to it in the description. If you use that link, it does help out the channel. I should say that we do have an affiliate link with them, so just being transparent. But would that keep me, not having that affiliate link, keep me from using a StewMac file? No, absolutely not. In fact, I bought this with my own money. I could have sent my StewMac gal an email and said, hey, can you send me one for free? And she probably would have. But I went ahead and bought it with my own money because, first of all, it's only 15 bucks and it's worth every penny. Now, a lot of people in the comments, of course, are going to say, well, why don't you just go to Harbor Freight and get a file like this? You know, you can get a whole pack of files for like $8.99 and that'd be great. Well, there's a couple things. If you look at the edge of this file, it's actually smooth on it. So when we get to using it, I'll show you why that's important. There's one edge that's smooth, and then both sides have the file, the grit on them, okay? And so I've seen a lot of people take a cheap file and then put it on a grinder and just grind one side smooth so they could have that same effect. Now, the other reason I like the StewMac file over a lot of cheaper files is because the finish that you can attain with some of these cheaper files is not very fine, very finished, very polished, and we're going for feel against the edge of our fingers, right? So we don't want to have big sand scratches and stuff from our file. This file's too rough. And a lot of the files that you can get at Harbor Freight, I mean, I went and looked through them before I did this video, and they are, you know, so you can do it. Is it optimal? No. And for 15 bucks, it just makes sense to have the right kind of grit count on the side of the file to give you the nice finish, as well as that rounded edge. First of all, let's talk about how frets are put into a guitar so you understand what you're doing. When the frets are put into the guitar, they're pressed into the guitar, and then the frets are kind of like left to hang off the edge. And then they come by with a clipper and they clip them off. Okay, so that gives you sort of a kind of a flat edge like this. In a lot of factories these days, like bigger volume factories, there's a CNC machine comes and like buzzes off the edge of the file of the frets, and it'll actually put a little bit of a finish on the side of the neck too, but it'll still give you kind of this like hard bevel. Okay, and then in the past, so a lot of less expensive guitars, they'll just stop there, so you'll just have this kind of hard bevel on the edge of the frets. And even if the frets don't stick out beyond the fretboard and they don't give you that, they'll still have kind of a roughness to them because of that hard bevel with that edge kind of going around in the half moon in the shape of the fret. So a lot of times we like to smooth that off. When you get into a higher quality guitar, somebody will actually by hand go beyond that, and they will actually come by with a file and they will actually finish the edge of those frets to make them a little bit smoother. In the past, this PRS stuff has come that way, and I don't know why it didn't on this guitar. Well, it did on some of the frets, but then they got about here and I kind of just gave up. So we're going to fix that up, and I'm going to show you how we do it. Okay, so crotch shot, but what we're going to do is with this file, with the shiny end down. Now, people are going to jump through the comments and say, oh, you did not tape off the fretboard. You could do that, and I would definitely, if you feel comfortable doing that, you can do that, but here's the reason why I don't. The reason I don't is because I want to be able to get all the way in there, okay? And the tape will actually hold it up a little bit, and you might not get all the way in there, okay? So what I want to do is go like this. Now, no pressure. We're not pulling down on the file. We're using the weight of the file, just literally it just sitting on here, the weight of the file, and maybe my finger, but that's it to guide it. No pressure. Let the tool do the work. This is another reason why this file is superior to this one, because we're not taking too much at a time. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it tight up against there, and we're going to just take that curve edge off, just like that. Okay? And then we're going to come around to the other side, and we're just going to take that curve edge off. That's it. And that's all you need to do. If you do that many more, and you can actually feel it. Oh yeah, that's nice and round. Now, if the edge of the fret down here is kind of a little, got a little edge to it, like where it's sticking over and you can kind of feel it with your fingernail, then take the side of the file and go on the very edge like this. Be careful you don't roll over to the fretboard, and you don't roll too far back this way, but then just go like that and just roll that edge right off, and then you won't have that edge. Now, one of the things I like to do is that I will personally, if I'm going to do a lot of these, I'm going to go all one direction, then I'm going to tilt the guitar the other way, and I'm going to go all the other direction. I'm left-handed, right? So it'll take that. So now you get up to this pot, and it's a little bit harder because you don't want to scratch your finish, right? So maybe you'll take a piece of blue tape and you'll put it here, and painter's tape or something. But if you just use the tip of the file and you just kind of use your other finger to guide it, just like that. Oh, that's all we need. Oh, and there's a little edge right here. Let's just take that edge off like that. Boom, done. Now, I spent about 5 seconds on this fret. So as you can imagine, times 22, so 44, because you got to go down both sides. This will probably take you about 20 minutes to do this, or a half an hour if you've never done it before. Go through and do one at a time. Start on one side, roll it over, start on the other side, roll it over. No pressure, just the weight of the file, and you'll have a nicely polished. That doesn't even just apply to this guitar, but it applies to any guitar that you do it on. Acoustic or electric, doesn't much matter. Okay, now the other thing that I didn't like about this guitar is the finish on the neck is like too matte for me. It's too, you know how when flat paint gets almost like a sandpapery sort of texture to it because it's so flat? The reason is because when, it depends how the paint is applied. In this, it's just paint. It's clear, right? But it's just a clear urethane that gets sprayed on the neck. So when clear urethane is sprayed on the neck, what's the easiest way to say it? It needs to be atomized. It needs to be turned from a liquid to a mist to get put onto the guitar. Sometimes, if that mist is the wrong size, it will go on as a, in the automotive industry or in finishing industry, they say it'll go on dry. And it'll just feel kind of, it'll feel dry. It'll feel like raw wood, and it just doesn't feel smooth. I would like it to feel a little wetter, i.e. maybe a little bit shinier. So when I finish necks, so when we build Dylan custom guitars every once in a while, and when I finish the neck with a urethane finish, I like to finish it with like a 600 grit wet sandpaper. But because we don't know quite how much finish is on this neck, I know there is probably 7 or 12 mils probably on this neck, but just to play it safe, I got some 1000 grit wet dry sandpaper. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just mist this sandpaper, well, kind of mist this sandpaper, and we're just gonna, I just want to touch it very lightly. Now don't go above the heel on this guitar because we don't want to scratch the finish. We are not taking finish off. We are minutely. We are not going to go all the way through the finish. We're just going to give it a little bit of a scuff. We want to do it evenly. Now, one of the things you want to be careful of is anytime something is painted or sprayed, as it gets to a hard edge, it's going to be very, very thin. And we don't want to scuff through the finish. See this white paste that's building up on my paper? That means we're taking a minute part of the finish and it is kind of mixing in with the water, which means it's doing exactly what we want it to do. So we'll just, and I'm just doing it in the areas where you're going to touch the guitar. So kind of right up in here, right up in here. Be careful on this edge on this particular guitar, and really be careful on right up by the dots and by this bottom edge. All right, let's wipe that off with a paper towel and see how that feels. We didn't spend much time on it, just a little bit, and see how there's this little bit of paste? That just tells you that there's a little bit of finish that we've kind of taken off and is mixing with that water. Let's wipe this off and see how it feels. All right, be very careful. The finish is very thin on this guitar. So stay off of these edges. There's one little spot where I think I might have got a little thin on the finish right here on this heel. So just be real careful that you don't go through. Yeah, the finish is very, very thin. But now, whew, baby's bottom, as they say. Baby's bottom. Oh, that is very, very nice. I very much like that. Yeah, the finish is very thin, so be very, very careful. I would say 1000 grit, or even 2000 if you wanted to just be really careful. Oh man, that feels so much better though. It just takes that dryness of that finish off. Those little microscopic edges, and it feels like a baby's bottom now. It's perfect. So I think we've kind of sorted out the little issues that I had with this particular guitar. And I think it's pretty awesome. I guess we'll make a video where we put some pickups in it, because there's a couple little things that are kind of weird about this guitar with the pickups too. We'll talk about that, actually construction-wise. Not tone-wise, but construction-wise. I see as I look at this, it's sort of weird. And I'll take some photos of it up close and I'll show you that in our next little upgrade video that we do. Nice and smooth all the way up and down. Feels great. We could have used some sort of rubbing compound. We could have done it a bunch of different ways. I don't use steel wool on my guitars in my shop because we have too many magnets around here and I don't like to have steel particles stuck in your pickups when we make them. But that worked out perfectly. I think it was awesome. And like I said, for a total cost of about 20 bucks for the sandpaper as well as the little file and about 30 minutes worth of work, we have ourselves a perfectly playing guitar, and this method can apply to any guitar in your arsenal where you kind of want to do those particular mods. I will leave a link to this file in the description of this video, as well as this guitar and everything else that we shared today. Hopefully this is helpful, yeah, there you go. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you tomorrow for our live podcast.